Thank you, and I give the call to the member for Warringah.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I move the motion relating to climate change and the economy in the terms in which it appears on the notice paper.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. Deputy Speaker, as the facts set out in this motion establish, climate change is the biggest challenge that we face as a society. Last summer's bushfires showed us the worst of climate change's impacts. Over 400 people died, over 4,000 were admitted into hospital with respiratory illnesses, and still more have mental scars from forced evacuations. Over 5,900 buildings and 18.6 million hectares were incinerated. There was an estimated $20 billion lost in economic output and $2.4 billion in insured losses. 3 billion animals were wiped out. The fires left no person on the East Coast untouched. Economists like Professor Tom Compass are warning that if we do not meet our Paris targets, the cumulative economic impact of damage to the Australian economy of these kind of disasters and other factors will be $2.7 trillion over the next 3 decades. Others are warning that significant uncertainties about climate impacts over the next decade and a lack of planned adaptation measures to these impacts will impede our economic recovery from this recession. We must address the pandemic and climate crisis simultaneously. While some of the measures of the budget were great and will help, including the temporary full expensing measures, it was also a once-in-a-generation opportunity to lower emissions and safeguard our jobs and communities from the disruptions that are coming. Australia is in a recession for the first time in 30 years. Sensible future-forward policies are what is required to lift us out and ensure our competitive advantage going forward. While so many countries around the world are embracing opportunities, our government seems determined to put the brakes on our transition and undermine our opportunity to be a leader in the world. In the last few months, the government has offered to build a gas peaker, is attempting to change the CEFC mandate to underwrite gas projects, has directed funds to open up 5 new gas basins, and has released over 100,000 square kilometres of gas exploration acreage. The funds for ARENA and the CEFC, whilst welcome, are only about 1/10 of what is needed to transition to net zero. These are effective agencies that are essential in our transition to net zero. Some of the facts are staggering. Economically, since 2012, ARENA has supported 566 projects with $1.63 billion in grant funding, unlocking a total investment of almost $6.69 billion. The CFC has deployed $6 billion and has leveraged over $27.3 billion in private capital to support over 18,000 projects. Jeopardising these entities is going to put a brake on our recovery. Countries around the world like the UK, Germany, France, the European Union, they've all recognising that acting on climate change will lead to a jobs boom in electric vehicles, energy efficiency and renewables. These countries have realised that the best way to leverage private investment is to set a climate change framework to legislate net zero by 2050, provide policy certainty. And that's why I'll be presenting the Climate Change Bill on the 9th of November, to offer that opportunity for the Australian markets to have that policy certainty. Modelling by Investor Group on Climate Change released recently shows that long-term framework and net zero target by 2050 will attract over $64 billion in private investment by 2025 and much, much more by 2050. We know that there is a global race on to attract private investment to ensure that we are future-focused in our recovery. We need to stop putting the brakes on that with policies like gas-focused recovery and actually embrace where we have advantage, we have the opportunity. Low-carbon industries could grow from around 2%. In the UK, where they have enacted a climate change bill establishing into legislation net zero by 2050, they have now seen over 400,000 jobs established in clean industry sector. Low-carbon industries can grow around 2% for UK total output in 2015 and up to 8% by 2030. So it's clear that the case is there for why we should do it. The question is, do we actually have the motivation to get out of this recession and future-proof our jobs and economy? There's no doubt that building more gas and talk of a gas-led recovery is going to be poor economic management. The private sector knows this. There's a global race to attract investment, and if we continue with the government's current fixation, we will miss out.